Some news from Pat Murphy regarding a couple of injury updates of a few of his players that the Brewers are kind of counting on for 2025. We'll get to that and look at the outfield and more coming up next here on Locked On Brewers.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is the reason why I say that you can never count on guys who are coming off going under the knife. Anytime they open you up, as we all know, you just never know. And the Brewers, with Pat Murphy talking to the Journal Sentinel, gave an update on Brandon Woodruff and Christian Yelich, which leads me to believe, I don't know if they're going to be ready for opening day. We'll find out. Good to have you along. Chuck Freeman here on Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Long time fan of the Milwaukee Brewers, my favorite team in the state, and of course, longtime sportscaster here in the state of Wisconsin. Yes, Murphy did talk to the Journal Sentinel, and before spring training begins, they're going to open up the pitchers and catchers. Although Uribe's down there already throwing, and I'm sure maybe some players trickle in this weekend, but Wednesday's the deadline. And you know what happens when players and pitchers and catchers report? It seems like everybody reports. Nobody wants to be that last guy in. But in advance, Pat Murphy talked to the Journal Sentinel and talked about two players. And he said both Murphy and Yelich, both Woodruff and Yelich are not 100%. And we both know Woodruff's coming off that shoulder surgery, Woodruff coming off the back surgery in August. Now, Woodruff, whatever I get out of that guy is just a bonus. I'm not expecting him to be on the opening day, be healthy by opening day, but I was kind of glad that they signed him. I was going to say, okay, things work out fine. We get what we get from Brandon Woodruff. He's coming off that back surgery, and we'll see. So him not 100%, I understand that. Now, Christian Yelich, on the other hand, he had that surgery in August, and that kind of baffled me a little bit that, he's not 100%. Well, when is he going to be 100% is my question, or something similar to that. Now, from what I understood, when he had the surgery back in August, that he was supposed to be ready for spring training. He was going to take some swings for the first time and be okay. I don't think anything sounds like that's not happening anytime soon. If he's not 100%, he ain't taking any swings in spring training. So we'll see how the next month and a half, again, spring training, we got about a month and a half, I would say, to opening day, probably closer to 2 months before opening day. So we'll see how both of these guys come along. But I was hoping to hear better news regarding Christian Yelich. But we will see. He's 33 years old, went to the back, had the back operated on, and when he came back from the surgery and he was in the Brewers locker room, he really wouldn't talk much about it. He said he didn't really want to get into it, which was a little bit of a surprise that he didn't want to talk. I mean, it's a personal choice of his, but did not want to talk much about it. So as of now, I am not counting on Brandon Woodruff and Christian Yelich being ready for opening day. Woodruff I wasn't counting on anyway. And Christian Yelich, I was kind of counting on it, but we'll see how he gets the health here in the next month and a half or so. Obviously, he needs spring training to ramp himself up. But I would think, again, when he reports next week and he's not 100%, he's not going to be taking his swings in the cage at the age of 33. And I have to believe they're going to take him, as they should, very, very slow. The Brewers, I thought, erred on Devin Williams last year, and therefore Williams missed a half a season with the team and probably cost themselves some money because of that. Might have been back a little bit sooner, but had they diagnosed that earlier, the bone spurs in his back. But such is the case. That's the case with those two players for the Milwaukee Brewers. But what I want to do next is get around to the outfield spots, because I think the outfield for the Milwaukee Brewers is very, very intriguing. And I think there's a couple of question marks out there, and I think it's going to be very good. It's the three guys. You can put three guys in the outfield that all can run the bases, can all catch up the balls in the gap, and can all play real good defense. Jackson Chourio probably is the weak spot out there defensively. He's not bad defensively, but the other guys are just so good. We'll get to that coming up here right now. I'm going to start with Garrett Mitchell. I think Garrett Mitchell, now you look at his numbers through the first 3 seasons with Milwaukee, he's played in 116 games through 3 seasons with the team. And he's gone through some injuries. The number one question with Garrett Mitchell is how healthy can he be? Because when he's healthy, he's huge. Hit the home run in game 2 against the Mets. 69 games last year. He batted .255, 8 home runs, 11 stolen bases. I think a healthy Garrett Mitchell can get you 25 home runs. I think the batting average could climb up there. He's one of the fastest guys in baseball. The 11 stolen bases are going to climb up there, and he's really good defensively, I think. So Garrett Mitchell, when healthy, I think he could be, well, not in Jackson Chourio caliber, but I think he could be really, really good. I mean, I like him better than Frelick, Perkins, obviously, and a few of the other guys that they could throw out there. Christian Yelich at this point. I think Garrett Mitchell has star qualities to him. I do. Maybe some of you might think otherwise, put him in a different category. And I know because of the health, we haven't fully been able to evaluate just what we got here with Garrett Mitchell. But in the times I've seen him play and what I see of him and watching him go through batting practice and going through pregame and all that, I keep an eye on guys like Garrett Mitchell. I say, man, this guy, he's a pro out there. Again, the question, can he stay healthy? But I think all things, if he does, he could be really, really good. And Garrett Mitchell, if healthy, no doubt about it, is my starting center fielder on opening day. So many things. Could be a 5-tool guy, and a guy with that speed, like I said, 25 home runs. I think he could maybe hit more than that. That's how good I think he is. So I think very highly of Garrett Mitchell. Blake Perkins. I look at Blake Perkins as a guy who's a terrific utility guy. Well, he did bat .240 last year, up from .217 the previous year. Played Gold Glove type defense, but was not going to win a Gold Glove because he's a utility guy. He's not playing every day. But 23 stolen bases, 6 home runs. Had some success early in the season when he was playing every day. But he's one of those guys who can go kind of through streaks and all that. Love his speed and, of course, his great defense. And if somebody's injured, needs a day off, you have no problem putting Blake Perkins. Just like in the infield, you don't have any problem putting Monasterio in any of the spots from third to first. Blake Perkins, who I think is better offensively than Monasterio and a better defender, utility-wise, you put him anywhere, left, center, right, and he is going to be good. And we know that he's got the capability of stealing home runs. So I love Blake Perkins. Love him as a utility guy, not as a starter. But if you got to put him in there to start a few games, somebody on the 10-day DL or the injured list, you have no problem doing it. Sal Frelick. Now, the problem with Frelick is, and I talked about this because I have Frelick playing third base for me right now. I do. And we're going to get to Murphy's comments coming up here in a little bit about what Murphy told the Journal Sentinel and a few things that he talked about. But Frelick the other day, I said, well, 5'8", 185 pounds, 2 home runs. I'm not expecting him to be a big bopper whatsoever. Did hit the upper deck home run in the postseason against the Mets, which was a surprise. But he batted .253. The upside for Sal Frelick, I think there's still some. Gold Glove, we saw that. But as a corner outfielder, a starting corner outfielder, got to have better power numbers, don't you? I mean, I'd like my third baseman hit more than 2 home runs as well. So I think this is a really critical year for Frelick to see what he can do defensively. Well, not defensively. We know what he can do defensively. Offensively. Okay. Is there a little bit more pop there? Can there be? Can those numbers climb up a little bit more? And running the bases, like him running the bases as well. Again, speed. When I see this outfield, I see speed in particular. balls that they can get to in the gaps, helping out the pitchers, getting from foul pole to foul pole. Really love him. And Sal Frelick fits that type of category just offensively. I would love to see if there's more there with him. Which brings me to Christian Yelich, who I talked about. Well, Pat Murphy had to say. We'll get to him. And, of course, Jackson Chourio. So there's 5 guys I'm looking at in the outfield right now. Mitchell, Perkins, Frelick, Yelich, and Chourio. 5 guys that play 3 spots. And we'll talk about Yelich coming up here. And Jackson Chourio. That's coming up next. Chuck Freeman here on Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Good to have you along here on Locked On Brewers. And, of course, FanDuel. The Super Bowl is coming up, and a lot of you guys out there, me included, love the Super Bowl props. You can find yourself some good ones. Super Bowl 59, 1 game, 2 teams. And, don't be like me and go against Mahomes like I did the other day. My one time I've gone against him a couple of weeks ago when they're playing the Bills, that is. But, man, I'm loving Mahomes. And whether you want to go on a side or you want to go on the first touchdown, predict the MVP, bet the coin toss, FanDuel can make it easy to get in on all the action. Live betting all game long. You can adjust your picks. You can see the live betting. It updates you constantly. It's pretty cool to see. Feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. Live betting lets you stay involved, man. You got that live betting right there while you're watching. And, of course, the TV is going to be a little behind the live betting because the TV's, 15, 20 seconds, sometimes 30 behind the play. Download the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet $5 and you'll win. You'll score the $200 in your account on the bonus bets. FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, the official partner of Super Bowl 59 that is coming up on Sunday. Chuck Freeman here on Locked On Brewers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. All right, let's get to the two other outfielders of the 3. I've talked about 3 already. I'm going to get to 2 more here. And also want to get to what Pat Murphy told the Milwaukee Journal the other day, Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. Let's get to Yelich. Like I said, I told you about what Murphy said about that he's not 100%. So what are the expectations? What are the expectations for a guy like Christian Yelich? 33 years old, now 33. It's happened fast. He's not the 2018 MVP anymore, as much as people want to say, well, he's back to his old form. He batted .315, 11 home runs, 20 stolen bases, 20 some odd stolen bases. And there was a lot to like about his season. It's just that he's just not a superstar anymore. He's not one of the best players, as is, Bellinger. He was not a superstar anymore, and Yelich the same way. But that does not mean that Christian Yelich can't be still very good. Don't count on him because of coming back from the back surgery, but the back surgery was supposed to heal this, and he's not 100%, which is a little bit of a concern. But you look at his numbers over the years, Yelich, since, COVID. I don't count the 2020 season because they played 60 games. But 2021, he batted he had 9 homers, batted .248, and played in 147 games. It's quite a lot. 2022, they missed the playoffs. He batted .252, 14 home runs, and 154 games. Boy, it just seems like he missed a lot more playing time like that over the years, didn't he? 154 games, 252, 14 homers for 2022. And then came 23, 144 games he appeared in, batted .278 and 19 home runs. So prior to 2024, he appeared in 144, 154, and 141. I got that 117. 117 for 2021. I'm sorry, I couldn't read my handwriting there. So prior to last year, he was playing a lot. And he missed a game on occasion, but it seemed like he missed more playing time. than that. But as you could tell, the numbers are down from his MVP season. He has steadily gone down, down, down. 2019, he was good. Got hurt in September of 2019, injured his knee, and people feel that that knee injury might be the reason why his numbers have gone down. And of course, you add the back to it, and that's a terrible combination. But yeah, his power numbers: 19 homers in 2023, 2022, 14 homers, 2021, 9 homers. This past year, 315, 11 home runs. And when he was playing healthy, and we saw him run the base paths, and he was running like a deer on the base paths. I mean, it takes him 3 steps to get from second to third. He's terrific. It's like watching Yount back in the days from going from first to third. Yelich is like that type of player. And you would have known he was going head first to the bases and all that. And you're thinking, gosh, man, he's okay. And then he had to have the back surgery and all that. But I'm looking at Yelich as being a DH on this team. And I know that the Brewers have talked about getting him spots in the outfield, and they want to get him spots in the outfield to keep him. They don't want him sitting on the bench for 9 innings and then coming up the plate. I mean, that's not good for the back either. But you also want to give him some time. And he's not a bad defensive outfielder. Let's face it, he's not bad out there. He's going to get the balls. So Yelich, he's not playing first base. I see him to start off as a DH. But again, to keep the back loose, they're probably putting him in an outfield, and don't want him to rust on the bench as a DH. Molitor was very good at playing DH toward the end of his career. From 87 on, he was, or from 92 on, he was a DH, and he was very, very good in that role. He could handle it, and he was all healed, and it prevented him from going on the injury list. I think in this case with Yelich, he probably needs some time in the outfield. And he probably wants to play outfield. I don't think Yelich probably wants to be an everyday DH. Brings me to Jackson Chourio. And I feel like there's a lot of pressure on Jackson Chourio. Not that he can't handle it, because the guy is great. He feels no pressure. He loves the big moment. We saw what he did in the postseason. We saw what he did in the regular season. Last 30 games of the season, he had 13 home runs. A lot of those in big moments all season long. Got off to a slow start and was just amazing. But I feel like when I say the pressure is on him, and it's from us in the media, people saying, well, he could be a 30-30 guy. Well, he's going to be an MVP candidate. I don't care about any of that stuff. Well, I mean, I do, but I mean, as far as that would show that he's having a great year, but I wanted the kid just to go out there and play again. Just go out there and play. There's no pressure to be an MVP or to be a 30-30 guy. The bar for me is still, he's risen the bar, but I'm not rising the bar for the guy. I'm not going to put that pressure on him. He's a good player. He's a great player, and he's got a major upside. But I'm never going to sit here on the podcast or any of the talk shows I'm on and say, Jackson Chourio, boy, MVP type caliber, because then if he gets off to a slow start, he goes through a slump. It's like, what's wrong with Chourio? He's only in his second year. Kid's 20 years old. Let him grow. Let him grow up. We've expedited the timeline on him. Okay, and he lived up to that billing. And yeah, there's probably more levels he's going to get on. I love the level he's at right now, but how much better can he get? Who knows how much better he can get? But at 20 years old, the old saying, the world is his oyster. He could be whoever he wants to be. Got to keep working hard, because you know what? The pitching staffs out there are going to readjust to him. They've had all off season to view tape on Jackson Chourio. Pitching coaches, pitchers, you name it. Those guys who sit upstairs and run the analytics, the Brewers are building a whole new office at AmFam Field, knocking out a whole section of the terrace section. TERRACE, terrace section, to add some more people to their front office. And these are all analytic people. And the Brewers have analytic people to stop other teams, to look at other teams. And their analytic guys are looking at guys like Jackson Chourio. How do we pitch him this time around so he doesn't go crazy on us? isn't light up the scoreboard like he did last year. So Chourio's going to have to adjust to that, just like Terang had to last season. And Terang, I thought, was good, and these young guys will have to continue. And, there are always adjustments made. Pitchers make adjustments, hitters make adjustments. All right, we come back. We'll talk about Pat Murphy. What else did he have to say for the Journal Sentinel? We'll talk about that. We'll go through a few more of those things next. Here, Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We are your Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. Good to have you along here. Chuck Freeman. You get us on Google, Spotify, Apple, wherever you download your podcast, any audio platform. We're the number one Brewers podcast. And thanks for all the great comments. Some of you guys have been tweeting at me, messaging me on the DMs, whether it's on Chuck Freeman, my Twitter account, or the Locked On Brewers Twitter account, wherever you've been. I get them, and I appreciate it. And any comments and suggestions you want to make, we're in this Brewers community all together, trying to get our team back into the World Series for the first time since 1982, where some of those guys who were in the prime of their career are now like in their 70s these days, like Gorman Thomas. So here's what Pat Murphy had to say. Speaking to the Journal Sentinel, I told you about those comments that he had about Yelich and Woodruff. Those were the headlines of today. Also talked about Rhys Hoskins, 2 years out of knee surgery. He says, one thing I didn't agree with him on, he said Hoskins was impactful last year. Yes, he was, and yes, he wasn't. And he still put up the 26 home runs, but man, he stranded a lot of guys on base. Or a Saturday night, though, hitting a game-winning home run to snap a scoreless tie, and the Brewers won 1-0. I was at that game. But yeah, Hoskins, I think I've said he's going to be better. Murphy pointed out another year away from knee surgery. And I think Hoskins and I think Murphy was trying to point out that, yeah, Hoskins is going to be better. But when Murphy says he was impactful last year, I think he's being nice. Murphy he's just not, Murphy, these comments, when these guys make comments about guys, they're never going to shoot down a player. They're never going to do that. He's never going to come out and say, geez, Hoskins just was, man, bad at 207 for us last year, or 214. That's just brutal. He's never going to be that kind of guy. Never going to be that man. He's very much a player's manager, and that works for him. Third base. Some of you have asked me about, think I'm off the wall when I say Frelick is a strong possibility for third base. Murphy says, he was asked this, and he says it's a strong realm of a possibility. I got that word wrong. REALM. Realm of a possibility. That's what he says. Realm of a possibility. Strong realm of a possibility. That he could be playing some third base. Says Frelick likely would have been playing third base last year, but Ortiz changed that thought process when he emerged. And, of course, they had injuries in the outfield, and Frelick was but he was pressed in the outfield action because he had the injuries to Yelich and Mitchell. So that pretty much kept Frelick in the outfield, and you couldn't move him over to third base. And then Ortiz merged. Now you lose Adames. Ortiz likely to move over to shortstop. And he was asked about the shortstop spot too, Murphy. I thought he didn't give really a clear-cut answer because he was asked whether or not Frelick or whether or not Terang or Ortiz was going to move to shortstop. And he kind of gave a confusing answer. But I have to believe that Ortiz is probably moving to shortstop unless the Brewers are going to surprise us with a trade for a shortstop. He also addressed the starting rotation. The interviewee, and I can't remember if it was Kurt or Rosiak who asked him on this interview. I asked him, they asked him, Murphy, Peralta, Cortez, Savali, and Myers. Probably those four, Pat? And he said, yeah, probably. And maybe Woody in there too, he said. So when healthy, Woody would be in there, although he's not 100%. So he says those five, Peralta, Cortez, Savali, Myers, and Woodruff, we're going to get the opportunities. And I can see that. And then you got guys like Ashby and DL Hall on the outside looking in, pushing for starter spot in the rotation. But I got a feeling those guys are going to head to the bullpen. So Murphy says he confirms Peralta, Cortez, Savale, Myers, when healthy, will get the opportunities, he said, with Woodruff in that mix as well. So that's good. And then we talked about the possibility of another 93 wins and getting in the NL Central Division race. He said, well, you know what? Are we going to sneak up on teams? Last year, people thought since we lost Corbin Burns, we were going to sneak up on teams and maybe we might be down a little bit. We did. We won 93 games. But then he says, yeah, we traded away Williams. We lost Adames to free agency, and we didn't sign any free agents. He was sure to say that. We didn't sign any free agents, which is true, which is I have a problem with. So they got worse. But his point was we got worse last year. Without saying it, we got worse last year. Still, we won 93 games. We got worse this offseason by losing a couple of guys and not signing any free agents. People still expect us to lose. I think the Cubs, according to John Heyman, by the way, sounds like they're the front runner to sign Bregman. I think the Cubs improved the most in the offseason, getting Tucker, Presley. And if they sign Bregman, yeah, then you have the Cubs competing with the Brewers for the division title, without question. At least on paper. You got to play the games. I don't like it how the Cubs got better in the offseason and the Brewers didn't. That kind of sticks to my craw. That the Brewers kind of were status quo this offseason. Status quo. I don't like it at all. Cubs making moves. I hope they don't get Bregman. I hope they do not get him. They have a vacancy over at third base, too. They would have no problem putting Bregman over at third base. I'd have no problem putting Bregman over at third place for the Milwaukee Brewers. Would love to do it. But, of course, that's not going to be an option. We all know. It's going to do it. My name is Chuck Freeman. Thanks for listening. Thanks for viewing us on YouTube, whether it's on Google, Spotify, Apple, on all the major downloads. Thank you very much for tuning in to Locked On Brewers. We're going to be here a lot. We're going to be a regular on this now. You know, during the couple of winter months there, we reduce our episode size, but we're ramping it up here because we're getting going. We got a week away from spring training. We got some stuff to talk about. So that's where you get us on our audio platforms. On our video platform, please, if you get us on audio, go to our video platform as well. Go to Locked On Brewers on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the alert button there, and it's going to alert you every time we drop an episode on Locked On Brewers. Man, be with us. We're just starting the season here, but we're ramping it up just like the Brewers are in spring training, and I'm excited about it. We got some cold days here in Wisconsin, but we'll warm it up with spring training talk with our favorite team, the Milwaukee Brewers. Thanks for listening and viewing. My name is Chuck Freeman. Thanks for making us your first listen to every day. For your second listen, go to my guy Sully over at Locked On MLB. He's got all the Hot Stove League action. See you tomorrow, everybody. Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day.